Hello everyone, this is Savita Acharya from Kendra Engineering College. In this video, we'll look into the last part of Module 4, that is tasks and functions. Tasks and functions are similar to modular programming, which are already familiar in C. That is, sometimes in programming we require the same functionality to be repeated at many places. So in such cases, what we can do is we can put these functionality into a routine, and these routines can be invoked instead of repeating the code at these many places. So tasks and functions serve exactly this purpose. Before we go into the details of what are tasks and functions, we need to know a few differences between the two. So here a few differences are listed. A function can enable another function but not another task. This means a function can call another function inside it but not another task. Whereas a task can call other tasks as well as other functions. Function always executes in zero simulation time, whereas tasks may execute in non-zero simulation time. This is because functions must not contain any delay, event or timing control statements, whereas all these are allowed in tasks. That is why tasks may execute in non-zero simulation time. Functions must have at least one input argument. They can have more than one, but at least one input argument is a must. Whereas tasks may have 0 or more arguments of any type, that is input, output or in-out. Functions always returns a single value. They cannot have output or in-out arguments. Whereas tasks do not return with the value but can pass multiple values through output and in-out arguments. So the gist of it is functions cannot contain any delays, whereas tasks allows that, and functions must have at least one input argument, and it can return only a single value, whereas tasks can have more than one, zero or more than one arguments, input, output or in-out. A few more differences to be known. Both tasks and functions must be defined inside a module and they are local to that module. Tasks are usually used in cases where delays, timing, event constructs or multiple output arguments are allowed. So this is usually in sequential or combinational circuits. Whereas functions are exclusively used for combinational circuits where there is no delay element, and it has to execute in zero simulation time, and also which provides only one output. So functions are typically used for conversions and commonly used calculations. Tasks can have input, output and in-out ports. Functions can have input ports. Okay. In addition to that, they can have local variables, registers, integers, real or events. Tasks and functions cannot have wires, note this, and they can contain only behavioral statements. So we know that when we are using behavioral statements, we usually use variables or registers. And tasks and functions do not contain always or initial statements, but are always called from the initial or the always blocks. So main features of the tasks. Tasks are always declared with the keywords task and end task. And the task will be invoked or defined if the following conditions are satisfied. That is, there are delay, timing or event control constructs in the procedure, and the procedure has 0 or more than one output arguments, and the procedure has no input arguments. Task declaration and invocation. The task is declared using the task keyword. So task followed by name of the task and terminated by a semicolon. You have the task declaration, the input output declaration here immediately following, and following that will be the statement, and end of the task is represented by end task. So I'll just take one small example of task declaration. Say task is the keyword. Okay. Then let me take say ABC as the name of the procedure. Sorry, name of the task. So this way. So and then I will have input and output arguments declared. Say output Z and input X and Y. Okay, then I have begin and the statement inside the task. Say for example Z equal to X and Y. Okay, and then you have this end task. So this is how you declare the task. And in the task invocation, say you just mention the name of the task followed by the expressions. So this task declaration has got one output and two inputs. So the same way in the main program, this task is to be invoked. Say for example, the name of the task, the invocation will be name of the task is say ABC. Okay, and I will call inside, say maybe inside my module I have declared say R as output and P and Q as input, whose AND operation I want to perform. Okay, this is how you invoke the task. More about tasks. IO declarations use keywords input, output or inout based on the type of argument declared. So based on what type of arguments we want to pass in and out of the task have to be declared inside the task using these keywords. Input and inout arguments are passed into the task. Input arguments are processed in the task statements, and output and inout argument values are passed back to the variables in the task invocation statement when the task is completed. So we declare so many input and output arguments inside the task definition declaration. These input arguments are processed and the results are passed back to the main module from where they are invoked through these output and inout arguments. Tasks can invoke other tasks or functions. We have already discussed this. IO arguments in a task are used to pass values to and from the task. We look into an example of task. This module named as operation is going to perform three operations, that is AND, OR and XOR of the two operands, that is 16-bit operands A and B. So these operations we intend to perform in the task. Okay. So this is the main module. You see this module name is operation. We have some declarations, and inside the always block we invoke the task named as bitwise underscore oper. Okay. And end. This end is for the begin, that is the always block. Now soon after that we write the task. So it begins with the keyword task, and then you have the name of the task as I have explained earlier. Then the input and the output arguments declared, and between begin and end we have the body of the task, that is the main functionality of the task, and followed by end task. After this only if we'll go for end module. So you see the structure, it is a module definition line, end module. So inside that, first we have the main program where we invoke the task, and soon after that we declare the task between the task and task keywords. Okay, so this has to be enclosed between the module definition line and the end module line. So we'll go into the details of this program. So here I have a parameter declared named as delay, and I've assigned a value of 10 to it. I declare two registers A and B, which are 16-bit wide. Similarly, I declare another three registers for holding the output of each operation, that is AB underscore AND, AB underscore OR, and AB underscore XOR. Now the always block has got the sensitivity list input A or B. So inside the always block we invoke the task, that is bitwise underscore upper, and inside the bracket we list the outputs one by one, that is AB underscore AND, AB underscore OR, and AB underscore XOR, comma A comma B. Now this order is very important because in the task definition line, while we don't specify the arguments being passed here. Okay, so it is to be declared in the same order in which you have mentioned here in the task invocation line. So here I have first AB AND, AB OR, and AB XOR, and followed by the inputs A and B. And remember, all these are 16-bit values. So inside, so this ends the always block. Now following that is the task definition line. So here I have task keyword followed by the name of the task, bitwise underscore offer. So here I have mentioned AND, OR, and XOR outputs. So I will be declaring them first. So output 16-bit values, AB underscore AND, AB underscore OR, AB underscore XOR. Now these names can be different. You can see here, here in the invocation line I have used all capital letters, and in the declaration I have, in the task definition I have used lowercase letters, or you could have used some other names in together altogether. So the only thing is they are going to be mapped by position. Okay. So first argument will be mapped to the first argument here, second argument will be mapped to the second one, and so on. So after third, 4 and 5 are input. So I have declared the next two inputs as input, next two arguments as input, which are 16-bit wide A comma B. Now the functionality should be put between begin and end. So inside that, so I have used this parameter declared for including delay here. So hash delay means that delay value will be substituted here, that is 10. AB underscore AND equal to A and B. AB underscore OR is A or B, and AB underscore XOR is A XOR B. These are the simple operations and end task. So you note here we don't put any always block, directly we write the expressions. Okay, like this direct expressions we write only inside the, in behavioral modeling, inside the always block. In data flow we append it with the assign statement. Okay, end task. Okay, and this is simply to say that if there are any other statements in the program, they can be included here as well. Then finally terminated by end module. Let me take another example, that is asymmetric sequence generator. So this is an example where we directly operate on register inside a task. Okay, in the previous example we have declared the registers as input and output arguments and then used in our task, but whereas here in this asymmetric sequence generator we operate directly on the register which is defined in the module. So in this example we use the register clock, okay, to continuously produce an asymmetric sequence. And there is also another task used to initialize the clock. So we look into the program. So module sequence is the name of the module. So we have skipped all unnecessary details. We have one register declared. Name of the register is clock. Now inside the initial block, I invoke a task named as init sequence. There is no argument here, init sequence. So if you see, this init sequence is a task name, and inside the begin and end of this task we initialize the clock to 0 followed by end task. That is the only job of this. So only once it is invoked. That's why it is invoked inside the initial block. As you know, initial block will be executed only once, and always block will be executed in a cyclic manner. Next we have the always block, and inside the always block we have invoked a task named as asymmetric sequence. This is also not passing any arguments in the invocation. So here the task asymmetric sequence is the task definition line. Inside this we don't have any arguments declared as input or output, but directly the body of the task, that is begin and end. So in this inside the task, after 12 time units we say clock is equal to 0, and after 5 time units clock is equal to 1, after 3 time units clock is equal to 0, and after 10 time units clock is equal to 1. So this is some generating some clock. So this generates some asymmetric clock in this manner. Okay. Then end task. Let me just try to plot this. That is, we have initialized at 0. We have initialized, say this is the 0 time unit. At 0 we have initialized it to 0. So the first line is hash 12 clock 0. That means after 12 time units from 0, again clock is equal to 0. So after 12 time units, initially it is 0 only. After 12 time units also it is 0. Till what time it is 0? The second line says hash 5 clock equal to 1. So 12 plus 5 is 17. At 17 it has to become 1. So 5, that is 17. So at this point it will become 1. Okay. Till how long it will become 1? Hash 3 clock equal to 0. So 17 plus 3 is 20. At 20 I want the clock to become 0. So this is at 20. Okay. How long it will remain in 0? Hash 10 clock equal to 1. So 20 plus 10, that is at 30 we want the clock to go to 1 again. So at 30 we want the clock to go to 1 again. Okay. So this is the output of the program. Next we move on to functions. Functions are declared with the keywords function and end function. Okay, and function will be used if any of these conditions are satisfied. That is, there is no delay or timing or event control constructs in the procedure. The procedure returns a single value and there is at least one input argument. As we have seen earlier, functions will be passing at least one input argument, and there can be many. And also it returns only a single value. So whenever you want only one single value to be returned, then you can use functions. Unlike a task, tasks can return multiple values. And also the functions should not consist of delay constructs, whereas tasks allows this. The function declaration. Here it begins with the keyword function followed by name of the function and terminated with a semicolon. Then we have the declaration of the arguments, then followed by body of the function, and end is by the end function keyword. So invocation, we just specify the name of the function and the expression, whatever you have passed, the number of expressions you have passed to the function, we should be listed here inside the parenthesis. And to the left hand side there will be some variable which is going to hold the return value that the function is returning. Some more features of the function. So when a function is declared, a register with the name of the function is declared implicitly inside Verilog. So we have already seen that function can pass any number of input arguments. At least there should be one input argument, but it can return only a single value. Now this single value will be held in the name of the function itself. That is, you are not going to declare any explicit register or variable for holding the return value. The name of the function itself will be implicitly declared as a register, and this will be holding the return value. So the output of a function is passed back by setting the value of this register by named as name of function appropriately. So the function is invoked by specifying function name and input arguments. So while invoking, you will be specifying to the left hand side of the function call, you will be holding a signal or a variable which is going to hold the return value of the function. Say like this. So here you have say y equal to fun. Say fun is the name of the function and x is the one argument that is being passed to the function. So after the function is invoked, the function will be executed and some processing will be done, and the return value will be held in the implicit register that is declared inside Verilog, implicitly in Verilog. Now that will be assigned to the left hand side signal. So this will be the invoking line. Okay. So that is what it means. At least one argument must be defined for a function. I have already discussed this. There are no output arguments for functions because the implicit register contains the output value. That is what I meant now. Functions cannot invoke other tasks. They can only invoke other functions. So this is the recursive function is an example of that. We call the same function inside the same function calls itself recursively, or you can also call other function inside a function. Okay, but you cannot invoke other tasks. An example for function, parity calculation. So this is a function that calculates the parity of a 32-bit address and returns the value. So we assume even parity. So if there are odd number of ones, this function will add a 1 to as a parity bit and make it even. If there are even number of ones, the parity bit will be 0. So this will be the main module named as parity. Inside that there may be other statements, we ignore those things. We declare a register, 32-bit register address ADDR and parity as a single bit register. Okay. Now always whenever a new address comes, that is whenever an address into the address register, whenever a new value is loaded, then we want to check for the parity. So for that parity equal to calc parity. So calculate parity, this is the name of the function, and the argument that you need to pass to the parity function is address. Okay. And to the left hand side I have used parity. So this is, you must seen, this is a single bit register. So parity, the function always will be returning either a 0 or a 1, as I have told earlier. If it is if the address is consisting of odd number of ones, then the parity bit will be 1 to make the parity as even. So parity, the function will be returning a 1. And if the number of ones in the address is even, then the parity bit will be 0. So this function is going to return 0 as the return value. So this is one first invocation of the calculate parity function, and in the same module we are invoking second time, that is for this display task, system task, parity calculated equal to percentage %b, and I write in place of percentage %b the return value of this function should be replaced. So this is the second invocation of the parity function. So we'll see the next the function, that is the calculate function. So as you have seen, the function is defined between function and end function keywords. So function, first line will be function followed by the name of the function, calc parity, and semicolon. So we are passing one argument to that. So that is nothing but input 32 bit, that is 31 down to 0, and address. So here I have used some other name. In the main program I have used ADDR, and here I say ADD address, ADDRESS. So it is going to map that. While invoking we have used one argument ADDR, that will be mapped to this address, copied to this address variable. So the function, what it is doing is set the output value appropriately, use the implicit internal register calc parity. So as we have already seen, the function is going to implicitly declare a register by the same name of the function, as the name of the function. So here the name of the function is calc parity. So the register that is going to be implicitly declared is calc parity only. So I say calc parity equal to reduction XOR address. So it is going to form the XOR of the address bits, and as you have seen, XOR, if it is even number of ones, then the XOR value will be 0, and if it is odd number of ones, the XOR value will be 1. That is what we want. Whenever, if the number of ones is odd, we want a parity bit of 1 to be generated, and if the number of bits is even in the address, we want a parity bit of 0 to be generated. So end function. So in the invocation line where we have given a parity equal to calc parity of address, so that a return value which is stored in the implicit register will be assigned to the left hand side signal in the function invocation in the main module. We'll look into another example for function, that is right shifter. Okay. This function is to illustrate how a range for the output value of a function can be specified. So initially, for the previous example, parity generator, the function was returning only 1 bit value. Okay, so now here we are going to demonstrate a function which is going to return a range, that is a vector type signal it is going to return. So let us consider a function that shifts a 32-bit value to the left or right by 1 bit based on a control signal. So for that we have a main module here, name is shifter. We have some irrelevant stuff here which I have represented by dot. So here inside this module I declare two constants using the define directive, that is left shift and right shift, and assign left shift to 0 and right shift to 1. In addition to that, I declare address, left address and right address as 32-bit registers. And there is one more signal control which is a single bit register. So what a function, before going to the function in the main program, what we do is we define a always block in which the sensitivity list is the address. So I call the function shift. So function that we are going to write is shift. So left address equal to shift of address comma left shift, and right address equal to shift of address comma right shift. So we are going to pass two arguments. One is the 32-bit address and the other one is the single bit constant, either 0 or 1. And this is the end of the always block. Now coming to the function definition. In the function definition, if you recall, we have earlier written function calc parity for parity generator, right? So here I write function 31 down to 0 shift. So shift is the name of the function. 31 down to 0, why we are writing is this function is going to return a 32-bit value. Okay, this function is going to left shift the address 32-bit address or right shift the 32-bit address depending on the control signal, and hence the return value is a 32-bit value, 32-bit address. So following this, we have to declare the arguments that we are passing. First argument is address. So that I am mapping, here it is ADDR in the main module, and here inside the function I name it as address. So this is going to map to this, and hence I represent it as a 32-bit register. And the second argument is left shift or right shift depending on which every time. So that is nothing but a single bit constant. So I declare a signal control for this holding the second argument. And inside, so the main body of the function, we use the conditional operator shift equal to. So as I have told, function is going to use the implicit register. So that is same as the name of the function. So shift equal to control is going to hold whatever you are passing, either left shift or right shift. So shift equal to control. We are checking for condition. If control equal to left shift, then left shift the address by 1 bit, 1 position. So this is the left shift operator. Else right shift the address by 1 bit position. Okay. So after the shift operation, depending on the control value, the shifted value will be stored in the register shift, which is same as the name of the function. And it is going here, this is a function invocation line, these two lines. So whatever shifted address we are passing from the function is going to be held in these left hand side registers, which are also declared as 32-bit registers. So this end is for this begin followed by end function, and close the module by end module. Thank you.